Welcome to the TikTok podcast. The clock is always ticking, so let's synchronize our watches and dive in. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and I'm here to help you make time for what matters. Hey friends, welcome back to another Friday feature bonus episode. As I was thinking about and preparing for today, I had such a sense and spirit of gratefulness because I thought I get to have really cool conversations with my friends, and some of my other friends and my new friends and my listeners get to peek into that. How awesome is that? What an unexpected gift when I decided to say yes to this crazy TikTok podcast that I would get to carve out time in my day to go there with some really important topics with some women that I really respect. And that was the essence of where I was when I started to think about our special guest today. So, I'm going to share just a little bit about a couple professional accolades so that those of you that are ready for some quality training and meat and potatoes, you're like, all right, this girl knows her stuff. And then she does, you know your stuff, Heather. And then I'm going to share just on a personal note. So my beautiful guest today, Heather Bollinger, she is the owner of a company called Fiore, and you're going to learn a little bit more about that. She's a certified executive leadership coach. Woo! Little like whoop whoop for that. She's an international Berkman certified professional. See, I told you guys. She's so smart, so gifted in what she does. Now, she's going to tell you a little bit more about her personal life, but her husband, Rob, and her 4 kids are just some of the coolest people on the planet, so gifted and talented in their own right. And here's the personal part. Heather has been a mentor mom to me, and I cannot think of anything that a fellow mom would be more appreciative of. A mom that has paved the way for you, that when you have littles, my kids were babies and toddlers, and Heather said, here, friend, I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to tell you that's normal. I'm going to teach you how to have a poker face when you have a teenage daughter, which I have put into practice way too much frequently. And to just have somebody who held you in their arms when you needed to cry and to say this is a beautiful journey and everything's going to turn out okay as long as you turn this over to the Lord and point you to the Lord. So would you all please welcome to the show the beautiful Heather Bollinger.
Thank you, Callie. What an honor to be here today. Thank you for having me, my friend.
I mean it. And right before we started recording this, I looked back in my phone. I wanted to look at my photo memories because April 24th, 2023, so a little over a year ago, we had a really defining moment too. And we've been friends for years. We had been peers together and worked together and always stayed in touch. We were always the kind of people that no matter what was going on, we were like, your kids are beautiful and your kids are amazing. And how are you? And whatnot. But we had an opportunity to have lunch together and it was really spontaneous. And Heather, after the lunch, it was here on beautiful Pensacola Beach. You're from Colorado, so it was a long way from what you're used to.
Yes.
And I was getting ready to go home. And you were going to walk on the beach. And you looked at me, and what I thought you were going to say was, do you want to walk on the beach? Well, I didn't. I had stuff to do, and I can walk on the beach anytime. But that's not what you asked me. You said, do you want to walk on the beach with me? And I said, I do. And I'll never forget our conversation. And I have pictures to prove it. And I'm going to post them in our TikTok tribe. It's our Facebook community because the joy that was exuding from you as you twirled on the beach and then our conversation and how you poured into me is priceless. So, okay, that's enough of my talking. Heather Bollinger, would you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Callie. That day was so much fun. And as you show the pictures with my, jeans rolled up, coming back that day to still a hint of winter in Colorado from the beaches of Pensacola. So it was such a treat to be there with you and then the conversation that we got to have. So it was a beautiful moment for me as well. So I am thrilled to get to be here. As you said, my husband and I live in Colorado. We're just about an hour north of Denver, and we have 4 children ranging from 23 to 12. So our oldest is 23, 21-year-old, 18, and 12. So, and I've been an entrepreneur now for, oh my goodness, 28 years, I guess it's been. So a very, very long time, and just thrilled to get to be here today to share with all of your listeners, Callie, just some of the lessons I've learned along the way, some tips and tricks, and some of the challenges I've faced and how I overcame them. And hopefully there's a nugget for the women listening.
There's gonna be a whole, like, wheelbarrow full of nuggets, I think. They're gonna just, like, cart them away and cherish them, because when we were deciding and narrowing down what we were gonna talk about, there's so many areas of
Mm,
expertise that you have both personally and professionally. So I feel like guests on the show are just gonna have to sign up to come back, because I know we're not gonna be able to cover everything, so we narrowed it down to a few things that I believe are going to resonate with so many women that listen. We sort of have this like avatar of this woman who has embraced the
mhm,
conversations that we've had, and we want to speak to her. And so I
mhm,
think this is a podcast about time, and time has to do with schedules, and schedules have to do with designing them and creating them. And so tell us how you have a perspective on designing a schedule that really has a holistic approach to so many parts of your life. I
mm.
think this is going to be the key for us to kick this off.
Okay. Okay, Callie. Well, I first just want to say, having, as I said, been an entrepreneur for 28 years and my oldest child is 23, I have been a work from home mom for the entirety of my motherhood. So I can relate to women of all stages of from single life to married with no children to babies and newborns and schedules and sleep deprived, to toddlers and nap schedules to school age to a mixture of all of the above, and all the way into the teen and then college years. And I can't believe I have 2 that have graduated from college. So it's it really has spanned a wide variety of stages of life. And so I just want to first recognize that I think designing a schedule that works for you, you have to consider the stage of life that you're in, and the ages of your children. For those of you who have children, the ages of that they are, the schedules that they have, the different support systems that each of us have, whether you're a single person, if you are a single mom, if you're married and your husband's schedule, if he works nights, if he works days, if he is on shift work, if he works overseas. I mean, there's so many different pieces. So it's difficult to give a schedule that's going to work for everyone. Um, and so those things have to be taken into consideration: stage of life, ages of the kids, and the nature of your business. Whatever it is that you are doing or building, if you're working in a volunteer capacity, if you're building a business, those demands are different. You may have demands that your work requires you to work nights or weekends, and so obviously that schedule looks very different than if you have a schedule that you're working during the school hours, etc. So I just want to acknowledge that first, that those things all have to be taken into consideration. And as you listen to speakers and teachers on this topic, it's imperative that you keep that in mind, because what is working for them, you can take from it, but it may not be exactly right for you. So take the lessons and then apply it to your own situation and stage of life. With that said, also, it's always changing. It's always changing. It felt like, as my kids were small, my work schedule revolved around their nap times, as an example. And then just when I would kind of get in a groove, it would be 6 months later, and now we're dropping a nap, or the nap time changes just a little bit. And so there has to be a sense of flexibility with whatever that schedule is. And I found that even as the kids were in school, there's sort of the first semester schedule that works, and then there's Christmas break, and then there's a second semester schedule, and then the summer is a completely different animal altogether. So just to recognize that it's going to have some flexibility in there. As I started to design a schedule that worked for me, one of the things that I had to get really clear on, and would encourage for each of you listening, is getting clear on what is your definition of success. For each of us, it can look and feel a little bit differently. And this will not only help you in designing a schedule that works for you, but it brings so much clarity to other areas of your life and decisions that you make. So, for a period of time in my life, I always wanted to keep my life what I would call properly ordered. I wanted to keep my relationship with the Lord first, my relationship with my husband second, my children third, and then my work. And I wish I could tell you I always did that just right. That's just simply not true. There have been many seasons, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but seasons where I've done it really well and seasons where I didn't do it well at all. But one of a pivotal moment for me came, and I can remember it clearly. I was sitting on the front porch, and our view to the west is of the mountains of Colorado. It's just a very beautiful scene. And it brings me a lot of clarity to sit on the front porch and look out at the mountains. Callie, for you, that would be a walk on the beach, I'm sure.
I mean, there's, for me, sitting in my bedroom and watching dolphins jump in the Gulf of Mexico, it's not the same as the mountains, but to each their own.
I could see that being a view that I would enjoy thoroughly.
I was gonna
Dolphins
say,
in the
when
Gulf
can
of
we swap?
Mexico.
I do wanna come get a view of the mountains. You can come back and get a view of the beach.
I love it. I love it. So I was sitting on the front porch, and I realized that I had gotten a little maybe sideways or a little upside down in what is it that I'm actually chasing after? What is all of this for? I was feeling like I was burning the candle at both ends in certain areas. I was over giving in different areas of my work or with certain people and relationships. I was under giving to myself and in different areas that I said were important to me, but that wasn't showing up in my schedule. And so I took a journal as I was sitting on the front porch, and I started to write out, what is success to me? And as I did that, I realized it was so much more than my professional success. It was so much more than any title, any accolade. And I started to write it out in some categories that I'll share with you that I think are really important. I started to write out, what is success to me spiritually? What does that look like and feel like? What is success to me relationally? Those important relationships that I just mentioned, my husband, my children, success in that relationship now and in the future. Friendships that were so meaningful to me, my parents, those types of relationships. Financially, what did success look like? And my health. And all of those as they related to my time, right? So that my time would sort of be the fifth one, if you will. But what is success to me, and how I spend my time and really live out this life that I have? Am I stewarding my life, my gifts, my talents in a way that looking back on it, I will be proud of. There's a quote from Jackie Onassis, and she says, "If you bungle raising your children, I don't think whatever else you do well matters very much."
Whew.
Ugh.
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, both of our faces just kinda yikes.
I get goosebumps when I even say it out loud.
Will you say it again? Will you say it
If you
again?
bungle raising your children, I don't think whatever else you do well matters very much. And that quote just hit me like a ton of bricks because I was certainly trying to be the best mom I could be. But there was something in that quote that was like, just stopped me in my tracks of there's nothing else as a professional that will supersede what happens there. And that moment on the porch just changed things for me. And when I had a clear picture of what success is to me, then I could design a schedule around that life. So, as an example, if my relationship with the Lord is what success is to me spiritually, where is that relationship being watered in my schedule consistently? Not in the overflow, but intentionally in my schedule on a daily basis. If success to me includes a happy, healthy marriage till death do us part, then how am I nurturing that marriage? And where is the time, intentional time with just the two of us in my schedule? And you get the idea, right? So the relationships with my children, financially, what does success mean to me? And what doesn't it mean, right? Key point. When is enough enough? What's my goal here? My health, again, if being healthy is a definition of success to me, where and how does that fit into my schedule? So I think, Callie, for me, that's where, I started in designing a schedule that works.
Okay, so I like to take notes while I'm listening, and I have well, I already have a ton of them. A couple things that stood out to me is when you said, "What is this for?" I mean, I think the problem is we are so overgiving, undergiving, overscheduled, even underscheduled that we
Mhm.
don't take time to ask ourselves a
Mhm.
question like that, and we are reactive to our own lives, our one
Mhm.
life we're reactive to. And to take a moment, and you know what I noticed, Heather? And I think this was subconscious. When you were talking earlier about stages and ages and nature of the business, and it's always changing, and you were saying that the tone of your voice was different when you started to then talk about what is success for me. Your tone, you slowed down, you were much more intentional with what you said, but there was like this piece to you. I
Mhm.
don't know if you noticed it, but I did. I noticed the cadence of your voice changing. And
Mhm.
I thought, how many women are in, and I call it cradling versus juggling. How many women are in such a juggling phase of their lives that they're dropping balls, but those weren't balls that they wanted anyways.
Mhm. Yes.
So of course they're dropping them because that's not something that is sacred that they have room for and they're making room for. Okay, so this is going to take a minute. It doesn't have to take years to learn. It could take a minute to ask yourself these questions. And you got started on that journey. And what else have you learned along the way? What are some strategies or some systems or even some obstacles or lessons that have come from this that has helped you? I love how you said properly ordered because I think sometimes we say balance or harmony or we use those, but properly ordered. What are some of those things that have helped you find that?
Mhm. Well, Kelly, I want to share too a thought that I had. Having four kids that have all been very active in sports and travel sports and just for kids in general, right? Just doing life. I found myself at a certain point, every time someone would ask me, "How are you?" My like response immediately was busy. Oh my gosh, so busy, so busy. And I remember a time where I thought, I created this busy. I'm not trapped in this. If this is too much, I don't have to do this. We can cut back the travel schedules. We can do rec sports. We've chosen this. And therefore, I need to shift either how I think and feel about it or dial it down. And there was an empowerment, in doing that. And so I shifted how I even responded to say it is full and it is fun, because it was a choice that we took this on and we did love it. But to say busy with an exasperated sigh, it seemed as though I was a victim to it, and I wasn't. So
I call it the busy badge. It's like,
mm,
"Ooh, let me pull out my busy badge and show," whether that
mm,
is we think it's bringing us fulfillment or respect from people, or that's just how everybody is.
yeah, yeah.
I had my grandma on, Grandma Deedle. It was episode 21, and she was on, and in her 99 years of wisdom, she said the same thing, Heather. First of all, she said what an honor it is for us to, as women, to be able to work, because she
Mm,
didn't have that option
yeah.
back then. But second, she said, if you're choosing to do it, love it. And if you don't,
Mm,
change it. Like, it's that simple.
it's
But
so
it's
true.
not. It's not that simple because we're not wired to think that
Mhm,
way. But it
mhm,
is that simple when someone today, like you, is giving the permission to examine.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep. I love that, Kelly. I love that. So here's some of the things that I've learned is being flexible, reevaluate often. Don't get so stuck in a rut of how you do things that when the seasons and stages of life change, that you don't change with it, right? Just reevaluate often. When my kids were small, I would have someone who would come into our home to help me with childcare, because that worked better for me. So I would work when the kids were napping from home, and then I would have just a couple of hours of childcare. So it was financially more beneficial to our family because it was less hours. And then while they were there, they could help with other household tasks also. So that was sort of a two bird with one stone. I would rather her, who's helping me watch the kids, empty the dishwasher so that when I'm off, I can just play with the kids. I'm not emptying the dishwasher. So just things like that streamlined our time, but we had to reevaluate that frequently. Asking my family what's important to them that I'm present for. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be home when they got home from school, also at dinner, also at bedtime, also at every game. And now my schedule allows me to do all of those things, but there was a season of life where I needed to like I had to do some evening work, and I had to ask them what was most important that I was present for. And that freed me up to be there for the things that really mattered to them and were non negotiables, and then be okay to be guilt free working or spending time in other areas at times that were not that important to them. So I want to encourage you just to have some open conversations with the people that are most important to you, your husband, your children, family members, and ask them those things. Kelly, I think that there were some strategies and systems that I've implemented along the way that have been helpful. So some very practical things, like we have a weekly, now it's transferred to a monthly because I just have two kids at home. But when all four were here, weekly was what it was needed. And I found a company that I got these weekly calendars, and they were on the fridge. And every Sunday, I wrote all the activities down for the whole week so that we knew who was where and when when we needed to pick a child up or drive here. We would do our meal planning on there. So everything was in one spot. That was a very simple thing that we did. I've had a paper date book for years. I know that's so outdated, but we do have a Google Calendar that we share with the whole family. So that's helpful. I can keep birthdays in there so that as my kids have gotten older, they can see when grandma and grandpa's birthday is, when mom and dad's anniversary is. But also everybody's practices and schedules and travels. So that's all on a shared Google Calendar. But I personally keep a paper date book and have for years because I write my to-do list in there, and that helps me stay on track. I've done that practice for years and years and years. And so every day before I leave the office for the day, I write out the most important things for me to do tomorrow on tomorrow's list. So I say at night I'm the boss, and in the morning I'm the employee. So working from home, that's been a key piece of staying on task for me. Delegation, as I mentioned, having childcare in our home, but things like house cleaning, office help, bookkeeping, things like that I found myself being bogged down by, and the cost of hiring them was worth it to me, to free me up to either have more time and space for the work I needed to most do, or time to be on a date, time to be with my children, time to be doing the things that I found in my definition of success. So that all sort of ties together. One of the things, Callie, too, that I found as a system, if you will, I needed to create more margin in my schedule. I value efficiency greatly. And so I found myself overscheduling myself. And it just set me up for failure on a daily basis because it was so rare that my schedule would go that well. It's just most days do not go exactly as planned when there's no margin. So I learned to be kinder to myself and create space between appointments. Create space in my day where it didn't have to be back to back to back all day long. What really works for me and the flow of my life. So as an example, I don't hold in-person appointments on Mondays or Fridays, only Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. I like to get, dressed and hair and makeup 3 days a week, not 7. And then I find for me, when I get into a flow of work, I like to kind of keep with that flow for several hours versus bouncing back and forth between different types of work. So creating margin and figuring out just the flow that you prefer. If you could design the ideal schedule for you, what would it look like?
One of the things that I talk about is don't fight it, but flow with it. And so
Mhm.
often we're at battle with ourselves on everything because we're either trying to do it like somebody else is doing it, or I'm guilty of that too. I love to be productive. And if I'm not careful, I will not have that margin. And then the burnout happens. And when the burnout happens, everything turns sideways, like you talked about. Everything feels overwhelming. Everything takes too much time. Everything, is out of whack, out of balance. There's no peace there as well. So, knowing and understanding yourself first, what is of value, and then what's of value to the people around you, just clears the clutter.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Callie. And when you have some of those simple systems in place, the one thing that I found is that things like the calendar on the fridge or setting up the Google Calendar, sometimes they take a little time to put in place initially. But after that, it just makes life run simpler and easier and with less thought because there are things already in place that you don't have to think so much about, which frees you up to think other thoughts, be in other spaces, be present, So I think, yeah, yes, so much to this just brings more peace overall to your life.
And I just wanted to speak for a second on the delegation piece because I think sometimes we can either we think that we should be doing it or that it's our job or responsibility, or we think we're the best at it, or all of this, or, it costs money, etc. I look back at I did the same thing. I would have a few hours a day childcare when the kids were little, and then they would have naps, so I would have another hour or 2 to do that, and my goal, by the way, was always to get enough work done during the beginning of nap time that I could take a little power nap at the end of their nap. That was my goal. But I look back at the women, young women, and, that helped raise my children.
Mhm.
Heather, they were so much better at some of these things. Like, I am a musician, so I will have music all day long, but give me a craft and my brain just doesn't compute. I had people that have taught my children beautiful ways to create art and to do all of these things that I was just not good at. So, giving them access to other people was
Mhm.
such an unexpected gift. And
Mhm.
it allowed me to fully be where I needed to be, not have the mom guilt, because somebody else was probably playing even better with my kids,
Yes.
right? Because I'm sometimes half distracted, but they were not. They were all in playing with my kids. That's why they took such great naps, probably.
Yeah.
So there's a gift of delegation
Mhm.
to somebody else that sometimes we are not understanding. We're even stealing that opportunity from somebody and ourselves.
Mhm. I agree with you, Kelly. I just this morning, I was at a coffee shop and having an appointment, and a former babysitter of ours was there in the coffee shop who's now married and has 3 of her own children, and it is just such a gift to see her, and she's asking about the kids and the relationships, and then here's something interesting. She remembers, and I remember, and I loved her, but my kids, they don't even really remember. They know she was a part of their like, they have affectionate thoughts toward her, but they're just like, "How old was I?" Like, it just wasn't a thing for them. They never felt slighted, and that is something on this side of it with older kids who can reflect back. One of the greatest gifts, my oldest daughter spoke at an event at one point when she was in high school, and she talked about what it was like to grow up in an entrepreneurial home. And I just stood in the back and just wept because I could remember leaving for an appointment and her crying and the guilt I would feel, or not being at everything, and this things I would feel. And as she stood up there and shared this, her reflection, she shared about what she learned watching me balance, watching me work for a goal and hit it, watching me have something of my own that was really fulfilling to me, using my gifts and talents, not only as a wife and a mom, which is beautiful and an amazing vocation for all those who choose that as their primary and sole vocation, but I knew I was called to use these gifts in an additional way, and that she just felt so loved throughout and attended to, and just all that she had learned through that process as well. So it was a full circle moment, definitely. So for all the moms listening with little ones, you know, just keep doing the best you can, and at the end of it, I think you will see the fruits of all that you're dealing with right now, and on a daily basis. So
And Heather, that is success. That
mm,
is true
thank
success,
you.
isn't it?
Thank
And
you.
now everyone knows why you were, have been, and will always be a mentor mom to me.
Mm, thank you so much, Kelly. That really means the world to me. Mother Teresa has a quote where she says, "If you want to change the world, go home and love your family." And when we think about wanting to have impact and that our life has meaning and matters, there is nothing greater you can do than what you are doing at home. And
Yeah.
so just keeping that in mind always, everything else has a way of working out.
I was speaking at an event maybe a month ago, and we're talking about legacy, and they were referring to legacy as in building leaders in your organization, and
Mhm.
and I had the opportunity to kind of round out part of that, and I said, as true as that is, my greatest legacy right now, they are 13 and 14 years old, and they live in my home,
Mhm.
and that trumps it all for me because it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter what else I do in my career or what else happens. I want that legacy to surpass anything else that I would ever do. And whatever success they choose and
Mhm.
path they choose.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, you've been such an encouragement to us today. I hate when it's time to wrap things up, but I want to wrap things up with a couple of things. One is if there was any last words of advice that you would want to give, then already we've got a bonus hour that we're going to give you. That's my gift to all my guests. And then lastly, for people to know where to find you if they want to learn more about you and what you do. So take that away. Any last advice that you would have?
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. I just want to be an encouragement to all of the women and men. You may have some men, Callie,
Yeah,
too, but
we always shout
all
out
of
to a
the
couple
people.
guys.
That's
That's
right.
right.
All the guys too. But just to encourage you to stay the course, to be intentional about your one and only life, to pause and ask yourself the deeper questions, and then to design a schedule around what a successful life looks like, feels like, and is to you. So um, forgive yourself for any regrets or past struggles that you may have. It's done, and let's move forward with intention and just properly ordering our life. My bonus hour, Callie. I
Here
mean,
it is, Heather. It's the gift everyone's ready for when they come on the show.
I was thinking, I was like, how deep does this question go?
It
But the
doesn't have
honest
to go
truth
deep
was,
unless yeah, I've heard it all, and I've only had like 25, 26 episodes. So
okay. Well, mine
yeah,
was not that deep. It really was just like reading a book for fun by the fire.
yes. Yes.
That's just something I don't treat myself to often enough. And it's something that I really do enjoy. So I would read a great book by the fire, and I would probably choose one that is not a like too heady, nothing, self development or anything
That
like
was
that.
gonna be
Just,
my
just
next
like a good
question. Is
book.
it about
Yeah.
personal development, or is it just a really good, like, mystery or suspense or historical fiction or something? Okay,
Some
good,
sort of
good.
historical fiction,
Yes.
probably, or a sweet little lighthearted love story, something
Right,
light.
life has enough stuff. Take an escape for your bonus hour, Heather.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, we can now picture you on your front porch looking at the mountains of Colorado with a good book in your hand.
Oh, thank you, Callie. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
And I
Heather.
just
So
so appreciate the time today, Callie. And I just respect you so much. You are a leader that I have watched lead for years with such grace, such balance. You are strong. You can be firm when needed, with always just a soft heart and love for others. And so to watch you lead over the years has been inspiring. So I love the way you lead your life, your family, and your business.
thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
And for those that want to find you, we'll put stuff in the show notes, but tell what you do and how they can find you.
Perfect, perfect. Well, Kelly, I get to work with leaders. I get to work with leaders and business owners to really optimize their gifts, talents, and strengths. And you can find me at fiori.com. Fiori is FIORII.com. And Fiori means to flourish. So the name was just so fitting. So you can find my website there, or you can find me on Instagram at Fiori Coaching. So I look so forward to connecting with any of your listeners in one way or another. Just stop by and say hi, or drop me a little DM if you got to listen to the podcast today, and let me know your thoughts or any takeaways you had.
Yes, please do that. Go check out Heather. And if you are a business owner too, I know that she provides great training and support for companies and their employees as well as one-on-one. So go check out my friend Heather. And Heather, I look forward to the next time that we are together. May we be dancing and frolicking on Pensacola Beach, or walking through beautiful snow-capped mountains in Colorado, or wherever else in between. So thank you. You're a gift, a treasure. I love you.
Thank you, Callie. Love you, friend.
Thanks, friends, for listening. Thank you for joining me on the TikTok podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback fuels our mission to help you master your time. Set your alarm for our next episode, and until then, make every moment count.